In recent years, Indian markets and businessmen have been on the hit list of foreign entities and governments. The latest entry to this comes from the United States, where Indian businessman Gautam Adani, his nephew Sagar Adani and 6 others have been indicted by the US prosecutors in New York. Notably, the indictment mentions a renewable energy company named the Adani Green Energy, which is a portfolio company of an Indian conglomerate. It has been not named, but we all know it's Adani Group owned by Gautam Adani. The charges, according to this indictment, says that more than $250 million in bribes promised to Indian government officials to secure solar energy contracts. The New York prosecutors allege that the nature of this so-called bribery was concealed from US investors and institutions, hence the violation of law. So before we talk more about this, let me make one thing very clear. These are just mere allegations. Even in the official press release by the US Attorney's Office, Eastern District of New York, it says the charges in the indictment are allegations and the defendants are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. So the ecosystem, which has been activated since 4 a.m. should read this before commenting anything. Getting back to the indictment, first let's talk about the language. The allegations talk specifically about bribes promised. Notice the word promised or offered. For instance, let me quote, the defendants also extensively documented their corrupt efforts. For example, Sagar R. Adani used a cellular phone to track specific details of the bribes offered and promised to government officials. There is no concrete evidence of any financial transaction. However, the Congress-friendly ecosystem in India has been portraying the same as if they were guilty of taking bribes. The next point is about where and by whom this indictment has been filed. The charges have been announced by Breon Peace, United States Attorney for Eastern District of New York, Lisa H. Miller, Deputy Assistant Attorney General for the Justice Department's Criminal Division, and James E. Denny, Assistant Director in Charge, Federal Bureau of Investigation, New York Field Office. The indictment was in the East District of New York in Brooklyn's federal office. FYI, New York is ruled by Democrats, and we all know that the entire Democratic Party in the US is controlled by former US President Barack Obama. Many allegations have also been put forward that the Democrats in US are actually using left-leaning judges in their dominated regions to push forward their agenda. These allegations have been raised by none other than the US President-elect Donald Trump. On 20 November, Trump tweeted that the Democrats are trying to stack the courts with radical left judges on their way out the door. It can be called like a last-ditch effort to make things harder for the upcoming Trump administration, which, by the way, has called for strengthening relations with India. Right now, Adani is being targeted to complicate the Indo-US ties for the future. Now, let's come to an important part. The so-called promised bribery allegations are about Adani Green Energy collaborating with the US firm Azure Energy to supply 12 gigawatts of power to the Solar Energy Corporation of India, or the SECI. This was subject to SECI entering into a power purchase agreement, that is the PPA, with the state electricity distribution companies, or SDCs. However, the power was costly, so the state companies were hesitant to buy. Now, the Adanis with the US firm allegedly promised of bribery worth $265 million to these SDCs. And by the way, do you know where these companies were based? Odisha, Tamil Nadu, Chhattisgarh and Andhra Pradesh. And since the time period which we are talking about is July 2021 and February 2022, the state governments which were ruling in Odisha, it was Biju Janata Dal. In Tamil Nadu, the DMK party. Chhattisgarh was ruled by Congress and Andhra Pradesh by the YSRCP. But for some reason, the liberal ecosystem and the opposition in India since early morning has been blaming the Modi government. For instance, Congress leader Jairam Ramesh wrote 2 lengthy tweets. He accused that the BJP has captured all institutions. But what about the Chhattisgarh, which was then ruled by Congress party? What about Tamil Nadu, which was being ruled by Congress ally? Maybe Rahul Gandhi should ask questions to former Chhattisgarh CM Bhupesh Baghel, or maybe his friend MK Stalin. During the entire tenure of US President Joe Biden, India did not cave in to the American agenda and demands, for example, on the Russian oil. Furthermore, the US deep state and their assets have targeted Indian conglomerates and markets because this emerging corporate and economic power of India is a big threat to the American supremacy. This indictment is just a last weapon in a series of attacks going on since the last 4 years on Indian businessmen, particularly Adani. This is also a brazen attempt to destabilize the Indian market. Although the Indian markets have earlier shown their resilience even during the attacks by short seller Hindenburg. As a patriotic Indian myself, itself. It's high time we all unite and stand together in face of this brazen attempt to demoralize the Indian markets. If you like this video, then kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel.